presentation. Is that where I'm supposed to be? Yeah. Next week's presentation, The Career Project, Opening Windows to a Better Future, presented by Glorine Bernhardt. Glorine will talk about the Career Project, which she initiated in early 2015 to help fulfill the Lake Chapala Society's expanded mission to become more active in the Mexican community. The Career Project's mission is to encourage students to stay in school, to visualize chosen careers, and to identify appropriate educational pathways to realize their ambitions. Glorine will talk and describe to us about various elements of the program. She taught high school for over 25 years and was also a computer software trainer for the banking industry. She has a BS in Business Administration, Education, and HS in Human Resource Development and Training. So we look forward to that next week. She has a whole bunch of other things she's done too. Really interesting. With Wendy Hill in 2008, she started the ACA, which is the Asociación Comunitario de Actos Oficiales, and the Tuesday lecture series here at LCF. So that will be interesting. Our meditation today is being led by Barbara Hill.
Good morning. Good morning. I hope you're all warm enough. So, whether we know it or not.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
There you go.
Whether we know it or not, even before death, we are all souls seeking peace, tranquility, calm, quiet. We seek peace with other people, our partners, our children, our ex-partners, our neighbors, even with adversaries. We seek peace from resentments, regrets, pain, anxieties, and fear. We seek peace by accepting the differences of people, situations, and things we cannot change. We find peace when we are thankful for all our blessings and for the hardships that we do not have to endure. Peace comes to us when we forgive ourselves and others. So, we may ask ourselves to practice what makes us feel peaceful and stop doing, thinking, and saying things that take away our sense of peace and completeness. We can practice letting go of negative thoughts that prevent us from feeling peaceful by taking a deep breath. As you exhale, feel yourself letting go and relaxing. Our thoughts create our feelings. Our thoughts create our feelings. So on your next inhalation, try thinking, I am being filled with love. And as you exhale, try the thought, I'm free to be peaceful. Now repeat this a few times in silence. For our own happiness and well-being, may we all keep creating and feeling peace. No one can do this for us, and no one can deprive us of this right. Thank you.
The Mysterious Metamorphosis of the End of Life, presented by Loretta Downs. Loretta returns to Open Circle with her new material from her TED Talk, The Mysterious Metamorphosis of the End of Life, in which she uses the transformation of the monarch butterfly as a metaphor for the cycle of all of life. She will suggest ways to prepare for the end of life with courage and grace, and how to consider the quality of your death with the same attention and enthusiasm you give to defining the quality of your life. I'm just going to read that one line again. I've read it a couple times and it really struck me. And how to consider the quality of your death with the same attention and enthusiasm you give to defining the quality of your life. With more than 30 years as a companion to AIDS patients, nursing home patients, hospice patients, and friends and family nearing the end of life, Loretta developed an informed and compassionate perspective on quality of death. She combines her education in thanatology and gerontology, as well as decades of experience in her uplifting presentations on the end-of-life issues we all face. Please welcome Loretta Downs. Am I live? Thank you, Kat. Can I use that for my eulogy? That was really lovely. Give that down. It's always kind of unusual to hear what you talked about in front of me. But better than behind my back. What is it? Oscar Wilde said, it's one thing if people say bad things about you, but it's worse if they say nothing about you. Good morning. Thank you for coming out on this surprisingly, unexpectedly chill day here, but the sun's out, huh? And we're all alive. That's great. I grew up in the city of Chicago, which lies in the Midwest, and in the era when I was growing up, monarch butterflies could be found everywhere. You know, they were flourishing in the fields where there were wide swaths of wildflowers and patches of milkweed. And I became fascinated very early in my life as I understood the transformation, you know, how they go from egg to caterpillar to chrysalis and then butterfly. And I myself was going through a transition of growing and changing. I became very fascinated with that and started studying the monarchs. And that's exactly what happened with death and dying. You know, somehow or other early in my life, I think I was born with this interest that I've been attracted to old people and sick people and death and dying. And I've never been afraid of it. I, of course, haven't met my own yet, but I find the whole process fascinating and interesting because I learned long ago that I have to do it one day. We all do, you know. So one of the things that's happening to the monarchs, like so much of our natural life, they're declining badly, and there's a social movement that's gone from the United States to Mexico and Canada, because many of them end up in Canada and travel 3,000 miles to Michoacan, which is only a few hundred miles from here. And the social movement is about education and transforming the ways, the habits we've had that are endangering them. And there's the same kind of social movement going on now over the contemporary end-of-life experience, because it's not the dying that we were always experiencing for millenniums. You know, 70% of us say we want to die at home, and 70% of us are dying in nursing homes and hospitals. There's something wrong with that number. It's a disconnect, and one of the reasons that's happening is because we're not talking about it. You know, it's this big, scary taboo, and I understand it. Our medical system has completely changed. When we go to the hospital, we're dealing with strangers who know nothing about us. You know, I would show up and maybe in an emergency room and not be able to talk, and no one knows that I go back and forth to Mexico, that I've traveled to 32 countries and 43 states, and I speak and write. They don't know anything. They see me as a collection of symptoms about which they start treating me with the technologies. They're all technicians, and thank goodness for the medical science and technical abilities we have today. But, you know, I want to take charge of my life, and I certainly want to take charge of my death. Do you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. We work very hard to establish the quotients for our quality of life. You know, for me, it's quiet in my house and color in my walls and classical music and socks on my feet when I sleep and chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla. I have very high parameters. I like to be around people that make me feel good versus people who make me feel bad. After years with my mother, I know that difference. But we got it together, we healed. There are a lot of information available now. There are websites like mine, and I encourage you to go to it. I didn't make handouts this year because I've updated my website at considerable expense, considering I don't make any money with this. And there are lots of resources and loads of links to information that I encourage you to go to. There's some wonderful books out now. This one, Kat and Margaret are reading, and I just finished. It's on the New York Times, has been on the New York Times bestseller list for months. And also Atul Gawande's Mortal Beings. So educate yourself. Like I've learned about the monarchs, and I think you probably know a lot about that too. Educate yourself on what's ahead. Because it's really important to prepare yourself and your loved ones for the ultimate. I think we all have bad examples of end-of-life experiences, and we all have good examples, some of which I'll talk about in a few moments. Preparing yourself, like you did for this trip to Mexico. Now, I'm a deadline person, so I haven't prepared very much until the day before, but I don't want to do that at the end of my life. And the advanced care planning process is pretty simple. It's 3 steps. The first one, you pick someone you trust to speak for you if you can't speak yourself in a hospital. And for me, that would have been my sister. When I called her up and said, Dolores, I want you to be my power of attorney, she said, oh, Loretta, you're my baby sister. I don't want you to ever die. And I said, then you can't be my power of attorney, because that's what I need this person to be able to make a decision for me. And all your loved ones will say that to you. They don't ever want you to die. There are people, I don't want my sister to ever die. I understand that. So the first thing you do is choose someone to speak for you and pick someone that you really trust, someone who's strong, who can stand up to the doctors when you get there to the ICU. Tell them what to do. Make a living will, Make it easy for them so there's no contest. Oh gosh, does she want me to do that or does she want me to do that? I better do nothing. And everyone suffers. The next time you do it, redo it when you get sick, diagnosed with something that's pretty serious, and look at the first time you say, oh, gee, is that what I really want now? Have I changed my mind? It's so nice. As long as you're alive, you can change your mind about everything. And the last time you do it is when something really serious comes, and that lifeline from where you were born to where you're reborn has suddenly shrunk. There are big decisions to make at that point in time. If you have a heart attack, do you want them to resuscitate you, or do you want to die naturally and be allowed to live in your heart attack? Do you want a feeding tube if you can't feed yourself? Those are very serious decisions, and some of you have had to make them for other people. It's painful, anxiety-producing, and we can spare our loved ones from situations like that. Just have the conversation. And go for it. Make your financial will. In the last 20 years, I've made 4 healthcare advance directive changes, and I'm soon going to make another one, and I've written my will twice. Wasn't as hard as I thought once I did it. And the result, ooh la la, I can stop thinking about I should, I need to, I got to do that. It's done. Felt so good. I really feel I have more time to live fully and to concentrate on the quality of my life because I've begun to establish the quality of my death. Okay? I'm on a journey right now with my big sister. She woke up one day in April, yellow, and in May she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Right. She's been a widow for 20 years, and she has 2 children and 3 grandchildren. They all live close, as do I. She was immediately offered a surgery. We can do this for you. But upon some research, realized that it would be devastating and absolutely destroy any quality of life she would have in the time that she has left. She didn't tell me until months later. The doctor said 6 to 12 months, and that was 8 months ago. She has accepted palliative chemo, and that's not going to cure anything, but it's hopefully stopping the spread of the disease, and so far it's doing pretty well. She's enjoying everything she's always enjoyed, moving a little more slowly, sleeping a little bit more, longer at night than she used to. But she is having a full and enjoyable life. She changed her power of attorney from her son to her daughter, knowing her daughter will be better able, if called upon, to perform those duties. She took care of all her financial and legal stuff. She planned her funeral. She talked to a palliative care and hospice doctor to stay ahead of things. She's also learning to receive more than give, which is her nature. She's spending more time with me, and it's interesting, her children are having different reactions, as are her grandchildren. And at her birthday party, we were all holding back tears. It was peculiar last September. But at Thanksgiving, everybody was celebrating that we are enjoying more time together and being grateful for every moment that we will have with her. Her end-of-life experience is transforming everyone who knows her because she's being so upfront and proactive about it. She is at peace, and I have to say, my sister is prettier than she has been in years. She is absolutely at peace, and it shows. It's so easy to be with that. She is a role model for everyone who knows her, and she is exhibiting courage and grace like I hope I do when I actually know that I'm facing my death. She's making me be a better sister and a better person. And then we have a cousin Andrea. I was a flower girl at both of their weddings in 1954. One of my claims to fame. And Andrea was diagnosed with Alzheimer's 10 years ago. And she is at the end of her journey. She is in the 5th nursing home that she's lived in 5 years. And her husband of 63 years has now joined her in this last home, the nursing home. He's lived there a year and a half. And he was recently diagnosed with dementia. When she was first diagnosed, his form of coping was denial, and she followed suit. They have 5 children. There were no preparations for what was known to be coming ahead at all. There were no conversations. There was only fear to block the management of any coping abilities. And for many years it was difficult in their family, and it's becoming more difficult. Don has told Andrea for decades, because he adores her, we are one, and when you die, I'm going to go with you. He tells this to her every day, and as beautifully loving as it is, and I have to say, when I'm with them, I feel that love, and I also feel the tragedy of her obedience, because she is hanging on for him. I weigh 135 pounds. Andrea now weighs 75. No one visits them but me and my sister and their children. And 3 of their children live an airplane ride away. So the 2 who live here carry a great deal of responsibility, and the family conflict grows. Andrea is starting to exhibit some end-of-life biological changes, and my sister has become her power of attorney, because when I sat down with her and did her advance directives while she was still able, she chose her husband first, my sister second, and her son third. And my sister is proud of being able to serve her cousin, who is like a sister to her. And pretty soon she's going to have to make a decision probably about whether or not to administer antibiotics to stop the infection that has begun in Andrea's withered body. This could be so much easier, but it's not. It's their journey. And I want you to know that anything that I say that brings up a feeling of discomfort or guilt from any decision or any action or any experience that you've had in your past with a loved one, let it go. You cannot change what was. You can't change if this is today and this is the end of your life and this is your past. You can't change any of that. Learn from it. Let those experiences make you a better person. Because you can't change what you did, and you did the best you could. We all do. That's what I'm doing now with my beloved sister and my cousin. And I don't want to look back and feel that I made a mistake. What's a mistake? It's a lesson, right? So we will see what we will see. I called home yesterday, and Andrea, his daughter, came in from Ohio, and they had a love fest. It's a beautiful thing. You know, sometimes some of us will hear there's nothing more we can do. Don't believe it, right? We always have options. This is, you know, we live in the modern world. I go to the shampoo store and I can't make a decision. I have so many choices. Even our little Super Lake, there's so many choices. I was in the cookie department. I went, oh no. And I went for the chocolate, but there were so many. And oh no, choices. Options at the end of life. You know, we have lots. You have to decide what is life's end for you. You have to make that decision. Don't let someone else make that decision for you. This is where you start thinking about your quality of death and your quality of life. Now you have a lot of choices. First, you can stop treatments, right? If you don't want to have dialysis, or you've had enough and you say, this is ruining my life, stop. But you've got to be working with your loved ones through all of this. Don't surprise anybody. It's too hard on us. Chemo. I've had enough. My sister said to me last week, because our big date is the chemo afternoon every other week, and we stop for bagels and cream cheese after. And she said to me, you know, this is such a nuisance. And I said, Dolores, it's every other week. We're there for 3 hours. She said, I know, but I have to get up earlier than I like to, and I have to get dressed faster than I like to, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, but you get to hang out with me. And she said, okay. So we made the best of that. But one day she may say, I don't want to do this anymore. And I'll have to let her make that decision. Because I'm also learning to let go of expectations while I'm going through this process. I can't have her do what I want her to do. I've tried for many years. It hasn't worked. And certainly not now. Now, you can stop taking your medications. The average 65-year-old takes 5 prescription drugs. Whoa. Yeah, we have to start questioning all of this, what's really necessary. And when you get I've been in nursing homes with people that have gone into hospice, and they are still taking 10 pills a day. Why? We have to be questioning this. You know, sometimes some of us, I may have to live in a nursing home for part of the end of my life. You know, I'm single, I don't have kids. I spend a lot of time with younger people in my life, take a lot of kids out to dinner, but who knows who's going to be there for me when the time comes. You know, the key is to find a good nursing home and to be sure the people who care about you are around there to make it a better nursing home. And nursing homes today are motivated. There are a lot of us who are going to need that kind of care. It's like at the beginning of life, we're fragile and helpless, and we are at the end of life. That's a fact. I mean, you don't want to die in the condition you are today. It wouldn't do good. No, but I definitely want to die comfortably and with good care. And that's the kind of thing to think about. You know, there's palliative care. Even my sister, who's having chemotherapy, is eligible for palliative care to manage symptoms. And so far, the only symptom she's had is her hair is thinning. In fact, she's already got a wig just in case. But some people have pain, some people have terrible constipation during chemotherapy. There are all kinds of side effects that we can have. So palliative care is a wonderful cushion for that. And when the time comes that whatever you're treating is not getting better, then you move into hospice care. And I have to say, we use hospice care as a last resort when it's a last reward. Almost 40% of us go into hospice within a week of death. And you know, what is that? You can get 6 months of it. And it's comfort care. It's somebody coming in and guiding you through this process. These are amazingly trained people with the biggest hearts I have ever come in contact with souls and non-judgment and nothing to do but wanting to make this time in your life as easy as possible for you and your loved ones. Don't be afraid of it. Feel the hospice, whoa. You know, when I first started the hospice movement in 2000, that Bill Moyers did the film series On Your Own Terms. People didn't know what hospice was in 2000. Now we all know, but we're not going there. You know? And hospice is anywhere. You can have it at home, you can have it in a nursing home, you can have it in a hospice unit, and there are even hospitals that have palliative care units that provide this kind of comfort care. In fact, my sister decided she does not want to die at home. She wants to die in the palliative care unit in the hospital where all her doctors work. And her doctor has assured her, I think even with a little wink, that he will keep her comfortable through the end of her life. And that was very reassuring. You know, there's self-determination for those independent, autonomy-directed people. You know, and self-determination is not suicide if you're dying. The difference between that at the end of life, when you're known to be dying, versus regular old suicide, is that suicide is done alone. It's usually done violently, and it always leaves loved ones in anguish and guilt. Self-determination is something that's part of your decision-making process, and it's done with the support of your loved ones. It's done with people around you. The different ways you can do it: terminal sedation, which is available in hospitals and in hospice. If you feel that what's happening, your pain and suffering is unbearable, you can say, put me to sleep until I fly away, like the monarchs. You could stop eating and drinking voluntarily. You know, and everybody stops eating and drinking before they die anyhow. It's the natural process. Now, when the caterpillar gets ready to go into chrysalis, it stops eating. It moves around its house. It's wherever it is, out in nature, the plants, it moves around, and it finds a place to settle. And it will spin some silk out of its mouth, turn around and put its hind feet into the silk and hang upside down in the shape of a J for a whole day. It's programmed. And then in an instant, the skin behind its head splits and it starts moving up its body, and it's writhing and shaking on its little peg, and the skin is crawling up its body, and when it gets to the top, it just knows, and it's the chrysalis is there, this beautiful pale green acorn-shaped chrysalis, and the skin falls off and it settles down and goes quiet. And it stays like that for 10 days. And while the chrysalis is still, you can see the monarch butterfly forming within it until the day before it's ready to be born, ready to emerge from its chrysalis. You can see the outline of the black and orange wings. And in the morning, as the sun starts to warm the day, a little door opens on the side of the chrysalis, and the butterfly comes out with these little bitty wrinkled wings and a big fat body, and it pumps fluid into its wings, and they fall out, and it will just hang on the tissue left of its chrysalis until it's dry. And then I take them outside. I raise them myself. I take them outside and watch that first flight. What do you think that feels like? Can you imagine? I was in a little ball this morning, and 2 weeks ago I was a caterpillar. I don't know, but I like to think about what that first flight would feel like. I think that's what death feels like, actually. So you stop eating and drinking on purpose. It takes a lot of support and a lot of patience. And there are ways to do it. You can read about it. Go to my website. Get the information. There's also The Final Exit, people. It's a book called Final Exit. Anybody read it ever? They promote the helium method. Not my style. I don't like hats. Physician aid in dying. The entire country of Canada legalized physician aid in dying last year. That is compassion at its best. There can be no better choice. And a lot of people won't make it. But for those who need to and want to, we need to allow them that choice. Right now in the States, California and Colorado passed the law in November for physician aid and dying, but what's happening is hospitals are backing out. There are a number of religious-based hospitals that are not allowing their doctors to write prescriptions. It's also legal in Vermont, Washington, and Oregon has had the law for 17 years, and they keep really careful statistics. And it's interesting, very interesting. Of course, the largest number of people who use the law have cancer, and there are the diseases go down. ALS is big on the list. It takes 5 weeks from the time you ask for the drugs until you get them. So this whole worry about the slippery slope, killing Granny, the death panels, there are too many protections in the law. The disability communities have worried about it, and not one person with disabilities has taken advantage of the law. It's voluntary. Unfortunately, the company that sells the drugs that are necessary for this have raised the price from $300 to $3,000 or $5,000. Right, so poor people can't do it, And frankly, rich people have been having this opportunity forever. If you know your doctor, play golf with him, you're very likely to be able to get eased out at the end of your life. And is back to birth again. Women in labor now have choices. You can have a C-section on demand and not feel anything. You can have a spinal block and not feel anything. Don't we have the right to be comforted out of our suffering at the end of our life? I think so, and I think it's really important that we speak up about this. The organization Compassion and Choices, which has millions of members, I suggest you go on their website and sign up for newsletters. They're behind legalizing these laws, and right now there are 20 states that have bills in their legislatures. On survey, 80% of us say we want the option. And about a third of the people who get the drugs never take them. Something about having a safety net that feels good, that you have the comfort of, I don't have to go through all the way to the end if I don't want to. Yeah. And it's only maybe, I think it's about 1% of the people who die every year in Oregon even ask for the prescription. It's minimal. Minimal. So it's something, I think we just have to allow it for people. And even in Canada, the reports, people are not, they're just not taking advantage of it in wide numbers. I think the end of life is a very important time, and I want to go through it. I think from what I've seen, there is a chrysalis stage for all of us at the end of life. And it's a really amazing time. If we have the opportunity to have the time, like my sister's been, my cousin Andrea's been in hospice for 2 years. We've already thought she was there about 3 times, and she keeps coming back. She's just not ready. And we keep supporting her, and hospice keeps supporting her. And one day she's going to say, I'm ready. During this vigil time, I have experienced amazing mysteries. I've probably watched, I think now, thousands of people living the end of their lives. And I'm in 3 nursing homes on a regular basis. I visit a group of Catholic nuns in one nursing home, and they vary between 12 and 20 in the population. And Catholic religious are diminishing population because right now the average age, I think, is 84 of Catholic nuns. Yeah. And just what beautiful souls. And right now there are 19 of them, and 6 of them are in the dementia ward. And this nursing home happens to be spectacular. It's got a chapel, so they can, and it cares for a lot of religious people. But I learned so much from these amazing women. And the kinds of things that unexpectedly happen when you're open to them are really life-changing. Being with people in this chrysalis stage is a time to keep vigil. And some of the things that I've witnessed are sitting with a young man dying of AIDS, and he was in bed across the room from me, and I was sitting in a sofa watching him. He was sitting upright so he could breathe more easily, and I was reading a book on death and dying for a test I was about to take. It was a perfect setup. And all of a sudden I looked up, and he was looking around the room as though it were full of people. I got goosebumps.
I was frozen, and I watched as this went on for a minute or two, and suddenly he stopped and smiled, and then he closed his eyes, and he died 4 hours later. I think he met his God. I've had a woman tell me, I'm peeling potatoes and I need you to help me because I'm having a banquet. A lot of family are coming. And she died a week later. I've had people tell me, oh, a wonderful story. I'd given a presentation and a couple of parents came up to me and told me that their son had died of AIDS some years earlier and that they were helping other parents of people with AIDS. And this was 15 years ago, so it was still a very uncomfortable story. And she said when her son died, that a yellow butterfly floated by her, and yellow was his favorite color. And I left the conference room to go back to my room, the hotel room, and I had to walk out a back door on a path against the side of the building, and there was an open field in front of me. And as I opened the door, there was a yellow butterfly, and it followed me to my room, and then it flew up. My mother told the story 10 days before she had the stroke that took her life, that she was taking a trip on a cloud. She said, I'm going to go to New York first, where she'd been once. My brother had lived near and taken her and my dad. And she said, I'm going to come back to Chicago, but then I'm going to California because Chicago's too cold. And I said, what's this cloud look like, Mom? She said, it has 3 rooms on it because we have a large family and I'm going to have a lot of visitors. I paid attention. And I asked her, what color was the cloud? And she said, oh, a big white fluffy cloud. And she had more joy on her face than I'd seen in years. It was so beautiful. And she prepared me in that way because I was paying attention and I didn't say, oh yeah, you're taking a vacation on a cloud, right, Mom? You're in a nursing home. You're not going anywhere. We have to be open to these things. I had a hospice patient whose daughter told me the week after she died, she saw 2 birds sitting in the driveway of their house, and this girl was a birder, and they were unusual birds, and she said, I looked at them and I just knew it was my parents. You know, these mysteries. I think that's part of our fear, you know, that mystery of we don't know what happens next. But I think creating sacred space for dying, and I advocate for what I call our chrysalis rooms in nursing homes and hospitals, I want them very much to be available to us. I want us to be able to go to a place like birthing rooms that are peaceful and beautiful and quiet, and we have a view to nature, and our loved ones have enough room to come and sit with us and be comfortable, not squeezed up against a wall, against the bed where they can't even reach over and hold our hand. I want these to be safe places where we can bear witness to love and loss. Because we're going to grieve, and we need to get ready for that experience. You know, grieving is as natural as breathing. And it's no mystery that every death breaks hearts. A lot of hearts. It's through those broken hearts that we transform even more. It's grief that begets art and music and literature and charitable work. A lot of hospice volunteers come from people who have had loved ones in hospices in hospice care for a long period of time. And they can see the wonderful work that gets done. You know, the Susan G. Komen breast cancer races, they've raised millions of dollars because Susan's sister started the foundation in her name to raise money for breast cancer. And you know, I mean, my sister's benefiting from that research, as many of you have and will. Alex's lemonade stand, a little 8-year-old girl who died of a brain tumor, and her dad started this, he set her up with a lemonade stand, and she raised a lot of money, a little bald girl, wouldn't you give her a $10 bill or a 20? Raised a lot of money, and she died the next year. He took that lemonade stand and made it a national organization, and they've raised millions of dollars for pediatric cancer research. You know, this is healing grief. In your communities, there are many people in need, many organizations who don't have enough funding, who do really good work. And every donation you make, every hour of volunteer time, every act of service you give to someone in someone else's name is grief turned to love. Allow yourself to relieve yourself the burden of uncomfortable grief and transform it by sharing it and giving love. You know, the best medicine for grief is gratitude. Easy. They are actually doing scientific studies on gratitude. People are getting funding for this. I could have told them. They find that people who practice gratitude on a regular basis and consciously, like keeping gratitude journals, are not surprisingly happier than those who do not, and healthier, interestingly enough. And I think gratitude is what, without gratitude, neither the quality of our lives or the quality of our deaths will reach their peaks. And gratitude will prepare you for letting go. The practice of letting go. You can start now. Please start now. Let go of the attitudes and the beliefs that don't serve you. Let go of regrets. Let go of unforgiveness, especially for yourself. Let go of expectations, because that is definitely a way to set up some trouble for yourself. Even at the end of life, I am totally aware that I can have all my T's crossed and my I's dotted, and I will not have the end of life I'm planning for. It was like, who planned for this to be a cold day? Thank goodness I had some warm clothes. I came in this. Okay, start practicing letting go with your drawers and your closets and your basements and your garages. Let go of the things that are meaningless and useless in your life. Start and continue. Because if we cannot let go of the meaningless and the useless, how are we going to let go of the things that really matter to us? Like our hearing and our eyesight, the ability to hold a fork steadily, or to walk quickly, or to walk at all, or to let go of all the loved ones who will die before you do, and eventually to let go of your own self. We need to practice this. We have to. We have to be our own guides. And this will relieve you of so much stress and strain for your loved ones and yourself. Practice makes perfect. Right now, the monarchs are in Michoacan. They're hanging on the trees for their dear lives. They're warmed by the heat coming out of the ancient Oyamel firs. And in March, they will warm up and start to travel. As they do, they will mate and lay eggs along the way and die. The eggs will be born and they will fly northward, and they will, however they find each other across the Midwest and the far north, they'll find themselves, they'll mate, they'll lay eggs, and they'll go up again. And in August, those that have reached Canada will start flying back south. They'll collect with the monarchs in the Midwest, and they will again follow their internal GPS and come back to Mexico, as we will. God willing, and the creek don't rise, right? Yeah. And just like those monarchs, one day you will leave your chrysalis, and you will stretch your wings, and you will fly wherever you want to go. And the moral to the story, please prepare yourselves and your loved ones. It will make your whole life, and especially the end of it, so much easier. Go to my website, please. I invested a lot of money in it. endoflifeinspirations.com. And if you Google Loretta Downs, it'll come right up. There are videos, My TED Talk is on it, which unfortunately, this is different. The video and the audio are poor, but I've got the transcript. Okay, so prepare yourselves and your loved ones. Go to www.endoflifeinspirations.com. Plant milkweed. Okay. Make friends with younger people and older people. We need each other very, very much. And have a little dessert and a lot of hugs every day, and give some to yourselves. Thank you very much. And buy this book. Maybe one day I'll be here at your. Oh, When Breath Becomes Air. Paul Kalanithi. He was a young guy who became a doctor, and a few years later was diagnosed with a terminal cancer. Very interesting story. His wife, you can Google them. His wife has some interviews that she's given that are absolutely beautiful.
We're going to go over a bit today with our question period, and Loretta's going to be available when we shut down the question period. She'll stay here to talk to you. For those of you that need to leave, you're welcome to do so. Just be as quiet as you can leaving, and stay quiet even when you get out past the gate. 'Cause for some reason, we get to hear everything in here.
And contact me. You can contact me through my website. I'm happy to listen. Okay. End of Life.
Could you tell me something? Do you happen to know anything about cremation?
Just that. Let me think. End of Life Inspirations, plural.com. Loretta Downs. If you, like I said, if you Google me, things will come up. Yes. The question.
Do you know anything about how you can guarantee cremation?
Prepay for it. I did.
Well, I heard that if you prepay, that's a dumb thing to do, because they keep your money and don't do nothing.
Well, it depends on who told you that, and don't believe everything you hear. No, I think if you prepay and you have the paperwork and you give copies to somebody who's going to be responsible for you, and if that person, like my sister, isn't going to be available when you need them, you find somebody else. You have to tie up your loose ends. I prepaid for my cremation so they don't have to go through it. And actually, I bought the extra travel plan. I paid $400 more, so no matter where I am in the world, they'll move my body. Question?
Yeah.
Could you talk about your use of thanatology? Because one of the most beautiful things when my mother died, the hospice people said they had a harpist who was a thanatologist. And she finally came, and she came from 1 to 2, and my mother died at 3:30, and it was the most beautiful thing. She really pulled her soul out. And so how do you use it?
Well, I'm not a musician, but most hospices have a music therapist available, and I have seen fantastically miraculous letting goes to the sound of music. I've been present at 2 extubations from ventilators, which in and of themselves is a pretty remarkable thing. You know, somebody has to make a decision to have that happen. And the music is played, and the therapist, the professional, knows how to match the rhythm of the music to the breathing of the person, and the person becomes entwined in the music, in the notes and the in the notes and the rhythm of the music, and it allows them to completely release from their body. It is a beautiful thing. Yeah, you can request it. That's another thing in your planning. Now, where do you want to be? Who do you want to be there? What do you want it to look like? There's nothing wrong in making that plan and talking about it, even if it doesn't come out that way. Just don't make people promise to do that for you, because then you put a burden on them. Next question?
Right here.
I cried throughout your presentation. I've been a minister in a hospital chaplain for 40 years, and I've done at least 600 memorial services. And my question is concerning Of all those, only about 10%, even if given the opportunity, have planned their own service. And one of the things that I have been able to do is to have a memorial service for some individuals before they die, so that they are actually there. Have you ever experienced that?
I have, yeah, celebration of life before death. There's, celebration of life after death. Yeah, some people, there are people who, in a lot of 90-year-old birthdays, 99-year-old, 95-year-old birthday parties, it's kind of that, but people aren't really talking about it. You have to be a certain kind of person to want to do that, and I think it's a great idea. Like when Cactus read my eulogy, I think it would be wonderful to be able to say everything. All these people, the nuns I visit in the nursing home, they all have a wake there because there's a big chapel, and somebody puts together picture boards. And I said, why do we have to wait until they're dead? Why can't we have these in their room while they're alive so they can enjoy their life? This is about changing attitudes, creating new rituals, making things that we used to think weren't okay, okay. Like seatbelts and condoms, they're okay now, right? So I think, thank you very much. I think it's really important that we start being afraid of death and seeing what a, miraculous, mysterious experience it is.
Can you relate your experiences to the near-death experiences?
Yes, I've talked to a number of people. Near-death experience happens when a person who has actually died, a heart attack, a surgical experience, something, and they come back. Sometimes as long as hours later. There's some freaky stories out there, and there's a lot of research going on. But a couple of consistencies, no matter where in the world a person has this experience, ages don't seem to matter. They experience a bright light, a tunnel with a light at the end of the tunnel, and very often a figure coming toward them and telling them to go back. People who have near-death experiences have no fear of dying. They're totally comfortable, not in a hurry to do it, but they say, I'm not afraid to die. There's an amazing peacefulness that comes over them. There are a lot of theories, of course, about what the light and the shadowy figure is. Some say it's a reflection of the person's soul rather than someone else. But I've also been with patients dying who will say, oh, my mom's here. Or Uncle George came last night to talk to me and he died 10 years ago. Or I saw my son. A lot of people have visions at death, before death, of someone who comes to guide them over. Any other questions?
One more. We have time for one more.
Not a question so much. I just wanted to mention that Canada has an organization called Dying with Dignity that's been very involved in Bill C-41 and the legislation for physician-assisted death, and they are also a really good resource for information.
Thank you. If you Google Death with Dignity, Canada will come up, the U.S. will come up, all kinds of articles. I don't think I have either. I have Compassion and Choices on my website. I'm going to add the Death with Dignity sites. Thank you. Is it Dying with Dignity? Okay. But that'll come up even if you just put in death and death. Google, the God of Google. Oh my God. Is that amazing what we have today? Even that. And we live so much better into very old age. We have chronic diseases. There are a lot of us who are living and will live for years, decade with things we take medications for. But we are overall living, and we're living twice as long as people did at the turn of the last century. The century before this. Yeah, we're living twice as long as people did in 1900. That's pretty amazing. So, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Be well.
Please pick up your chairs and stack them, and pick up your coffee cups and throw them away. Look forward to seeing you next week. Turn on your cell phones if you so choose to.